an employer panel. And if I could have our panelists come up and I'll set the scene. So one of the interesting things about this class is that we try to provide opportunities for students to get perspectives from employers and industry. Okay. At the same time, also, when we've done this employer panel with our first-year students in the Intro to Co-op classes, it's a different context. As you've gone through your co-op rotations, you've done at most 3. As we've gone through our co-op rotations, we've now got to a point where we're asking different questions compared to when we were a few years ago. Okay, and so we have 2 folks here, and they both represent two differing perspectives, and this is going to be an interesting interplay in as much as that they have not only differing perspectives, but are in their different points in their careers. Okay, and so I'm going to start off with a couple of questions for our panelists, and then I'm going to open it for you all. Okay, and so to kick things off, if I could have our panelists introduce themselves.
Sure. My name is Brad Hatfields. I am a 2003 mechanical engineering grad from UC. I work for Dow Chemical. I've been with Dow for 18 years and had a variety of different jobs, all in manufacturing, down to a day-to-day engineer, maintenance engineer, coordinated production for a while, been an operations leader, production leader. I currently am the production leader for a plant in Carrollton, Kentucky. We got about 80 people in my department. I am married, but I broke my wedding ring, so mechanical engineers to tungsten carbide shatters, just so you know. Married, have 3 kids, and I live down in Union.
How's it going, guys? My name is Stephen Dunker, mechanical engineering, 2020. Worked at Food Plant Engineering, do MEP design work for them. Small company, 15 employees or less. Been there since March 1st, 2021 is when I got hired. So it's been a little while. For anyone who knows about, becoming a PE, I've taken my fundamentals of engineering exam, so I'm licensed as an engineering intern, EIT, if you're familiar with that. Not married, got a long-term girlfriend, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
And again, thank you for coming to our class today. If you didn't mention it, can you talk about, each of you talk about your co-op experiences when you were here at UC?
So I worked at 2 different companies, E2M Engineering, which is like 5 minutes past Short Pond, pretty close to campus. And then I worked at, I was there for 3 semesters doing MEP design work, and then I worked in Germany for 2 semesters at a company called Pizzas, and was there, January to August of 2019. It was nonprofit renewable energy, specifically hydrogen work applications. So, I guess it was rewarding experiences, both of them, but I would say, it was very interesting for me to, get to live abroad and, learn a new language and a different culture. Was very unique.
So I co-ops all 6 of my terms. We were on trimesters then. All 6 of my terms with Dow, so I've been with Dow since I was 19. So I co-opted in Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, and Michigan in a variety of different roles, from maintenance to research and development, to being day-to-day production of a plant, to technical sales and development. So got kind of a broad experience of types of jobs that engineers do kind of at an entry level in the company. And again, moves straight from the Dow Co-op 6 terms to full-time.
And so, Brad, you mentioned that you started at Dow, and then you're still at Dow.
Mm-hmm.
What was the transition like when you went from being an undergraduate student to being an alumnus, and now transitioning to a permanent job?
Well, The transition from a job standpoint wasn't all that different, right? So I did a lot of the same work, a lot of the same engineering. I actually took a job, the same job I had as a co-op, I took as a full-time in the same department in Louisiana. So the transition between departments was relatively easy because I knew the people, I knew the job, I'd been there before. I think one of the things that changes in transition, though, is you start thinking more long-term. You think a little bit beyond the semester, right? So when you co-op, a lot of times you don't get to see things start to finish, right? You start a project or you pick a project up midway, and it's not kind of your project start to finish. And that's one of the things in transition that changes. You're given a project, you're very, very likely going to finish it, right? And so, I think that was a big change for me. Is kind of 3-4 months came and went, and I was still there, right? And so I think you start to think longer. You got to think longer term, right?
And then Stephen, you came back from Germany and then did a job search,
Yep.
right? So how was your job search?
So I guess graduated May 2020. As everyone here knows, middle of March, working whatever it was a big shutdown, for the pandemic. And a couple months after that, I graduated. I've been looking for a job, interviewing with companies, I guess throughout my final semester, and all those leads kind of dried up, unfortunately. And I was kind of at this position where I had graduated, had no job. I had been, continually applying to companies throughout Cincinnati, greater Cincinnati metropolitan area, whatever you want to say. Was not having any luck. I ended up getting a serving job at Outback Steakhouse for pretty much, when I graduated up until end of February of this year, I was working there, and it kind of all came at once. I've been applying to jobs for over a year, and I got like 3 or 4 offers all at the same time, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I ended up accepting one at food plant engineering. I've been there since, but let me see if I'm missed anything in particular about that. That's pretty much what my job search was. Recommendations for that is just continuing, keep your resume updated. That's super important. Just all your active work experience, past work experience, keep that up to date. Make sure you're ready to start applying jobs when the time comes.
So, being where you are now, right? What has changed since co-op? So how have your skills evolved, or your experiences evolved over the months or the years?
I think the main one for me, that ties into my current role of leadership, and kind of the first steps of that when you first become an engineer in a plant is understanding your influence as an influential leader, right? So as an engineer, when you go into a company, you're a leader. You're seen as a leader, you're looked up to, and you're looked upon to help, right? So understanding how your behavior and your actions and the way that you conduct yourself impacts others, right? That's something that you learn, and you either learn it the hard way or you learn it the easy way, right? But I think another thing, that has changed for me is, you spend a little bit of time after school and you learn practicality, right? You learn kind of the 80-20 rule, right? You want to be perfect, you want to get things right, but you learn that comes at a cost, right? Being perfect comes at a cost, and sometimes there really is good enough to get what you're trying to accomplish done, right? That's been one, the leadership, and then just kind of the everyday practicality that comes with getting reps, and the number of things you get done, the number of projects, how many different types of jobs you've had. You kind of broaden your experience, and you kind of learn what's important and what's not.
So at what point, and to follow up, at what point did you say, this is good enough? Because, we have some folks where, sometimes, and to be honest, from what I hear from students is that one of the criticisms our students get is that they spend too much time on a project, right? Because they want to get it right, because they want to make an impression, and so it sort of steamrolls, right? But as you started in your job, at one point did you said, "This is good enough. I'm good."
Well, in quite a few cases after I get the feedback that I took too long to get something done, right? And I learned trial and error. What was another way, right? Like getting it wrong enough times that I'm like, okay, well, the next time I do this, or the next time I have a similar situation, I'm going to stop at this point, just get it done. Or something else that has happened throughout my career is I'll get it perfect, right? I'll take my time, get it perfect, and then still end up changing it, right? So I think that it's that understanding that you're probably going to end up changing. Where you think you're going and going to end up is probably going to change at some point while you're trying to accomplish something. And so sometimes you just need to, you kind of learn to stop, implement or partially implement, and kind of get a litmus test for how you think you're going to end up. But for me, I'd say quite a few times I learned the hard way, right? I got the feedback when I was done, and, that I should have done a little less, right? But I would say watch, when you get out of school, watch your experienced engineers, right? Go watch, because they've all learned, right? They're probably already on the 80-20 rule, right? Maybe get their opinion, get feedback from others. It's very helpful.
And then I guess with myself, I didn't really too big of a response to this question. Kind of tying into Brad's, decision making was kind of refined after I graduated. You start to see a more clear picture when you're in a position for a little while and you understand what the job is. Versus 3-4 months at a rotation, you kind of understand. Okay, this is what I got to do. So you get the job done, and you just have this refined decision-making skill, at least that I developed, that helps me, kind of function better as an engineer than I was at my college. So a little bit more responsibility now, so that's pretty much it.
And then, so thinking about that senior year, right? As you think about that in the graduation year, because these folks are about to enter their final year, okay? What is the one thing that you wish you had known back then, going into that senior year?
I got a pretty thorough answer for this one. I think there's a couple different things that I wish I had known. First of all, so if you're interested at all in becoming a professional engineer, I would highly recommend to take your fundamentals engineering exam. As soon as you're eligible, I think you can take it in your last semester or last 2 semesters, last year of college and whatnot. So definitely look into that if you have any aspirations to become a professional engineer. It's significantly easier, to take that exam and conceptualize, the different parts of that while you're in school versus being a year removed, which is what I did, a little over a year removed. So, I had to study a lot for that and took up a lot of time, which, I understand you guys are all busy and things come up and, college, there's a lot of stuff going on. So, you might not think you have time, but, definitely try to pursue that if that interests you. So when you come back from co-op in August or whatever, your last 1 or 2 semesters of college, definitely, look into that. And I would say another thing I wish I had learned better while I was in school kind of pertains to personal finances. So understanding, budgeting is super important. It's incredibly important for financial success. Kind of lays that financial foundation. And, once you understand how your money works, you can get your money to work for you, which, I'm sure most of you in here care about money to some degree, and you're in a, good major, you're going to get a good, well-paying job, and, understanding how to make your money work for you is super important. And then that's pretty much everything I got for recommendations last week.
Yeah, I would echo the financial planning. It's tough to tell somebody with a starting salary to max out your 401k every year, but max out your 401k every year. I can tell you 18 years in, I'm glad I did that year one, right? It makes a big difference. The other one, around financials that pertains to the job is financial acumen and budgeting in a manufacturing facility, if that's the direction you're heading, and even probably in any business, right? The more you understand the way the finances work and the way the money flows and return on investment, it's going to help you execute your job. Understanding, that, for instance, inventory sitting on the floor is cash that's not freed up to go invest in things like research and development and paychecks. The other piece I think that I wish I probably would have learned before I moved on to a full-time position was more about cultures around the world, right? I work for a global company, right? And in most jobs that I've had sister plants, colleagues in other geographies of the world, right? And I think I wish I would have done a little bit more homework going in to realize, okay, if I'm going into this company or this business, we've got other plants or customers even in these geographies, and I think understanding a little bit more about that, for me would have been helpful. We had to learn on the fly, and it would have been much probably smoother to know that going in.
Has technology helped you a lot when it comes to resolving that cultural aspect?
Yeah, it has. I mean, one of the big changes has been, just translating software, right? Whether it's an email now or you can do it in a lot of office products. That translation, I think, has been helpful because you can go out there and not, a lot of things are in English, right? In my company, at least, when you go around the globe, but not everything is in English. And so, for instance, as simple as a housekeeping program, right? We were working on housekeeping in our plant, and there's a plant in Portugal that had a fantastic housekeeping program, right? I've seen the pictures. And so everything was in Portuguese, right? So we were able to get that back into English without spending a whole lot of somebody's time, right? So technology, with the global company, the translation has been good. And then programs just continue getting smarter. Right? I feel like I'm, a bit of a dinosaur at times, right? Like I don't know if everybody uses Microsoft Teams, but that has been a game changer technology-wise on just the ability to access stuff. You're not going out and looking for files. I mean, they're right there in your Teams, right? So that's what yeah. Technology has come a long way in the last 18 years. I think sometimes we lose sight of it, right? Even smartphones, right? The ability to be having a discussion with somebody, even at work, right, and be able to pull up your phone and get an answer right away. That's been quite an improvement.
And they mentioned financial planning. There will be a video lecture for you all to access on financial planning. I'll post it sometime later on in the next couple of weeks. Okay. So my last canned question for you all is, what kind of advice would you offer our students at this point as they think about the next 18 months, right? As they plan for the next 18 months, you've mentioned a ton of bits of advice, but what other pieces of advice would you offer them?
So I kind of typed the response to this question. College is your time to learn and to grow, not only as an intellectual, professional, but also as a person. So definitely, cherish these times. I look back at college, even though it's pretty recent that I graduated. Got a lot of good memories here. Some of my best friends and the best people I know today I met while in college. So yeah, just make the most of your time. You're never going to have this opportunity again. So again, I want to stress, take the FE exam if you're thinking about becoming a professional engineer. Definitely open up a Roth IRA, individual retirement account. I don't know if many people are familiar with that. I've seen a lot of head nods. All right, that's good. Yeah, max that out. You get, it changes, every 5 years or so, but, 6,000, in your Roth every year. And you can only put that in, every fiscal year, so you can't contribute to, last year's contributions once it's past tax day. So, yeah, definitely max that out. I do have something to add with the 401k match, or the 401k. Definitely take the match, and unless it doesn't work out for you, like in terms of your tax bracket, don't max it out. Like, 19,500 is the max you can contribute to 401k. While that is, could be potentially advantageous for you if you, get a tax break on it. Yeah, definitely look at that because, no idea what taxes you're going to do in the future. So, you got no idea. So you're kind of speculating that taxes, I'm putting in money now, and in the future you're going to get a lower, tax rate on it when you take the money out. That might not necessarily be true. It might be high taxes. You might be, blowing money down the drain at that point. But yeah, take the match. It's free money. And then something else I have to add is not all debt is bad debt. So I recently purchased 2 properties over in Anderson Township, and I don't know if anyone knows Bigger Pockets by House Hack. And I basically get my mortgage, all my utilities, all my property tax, all my expenses that come, with owning property covered through tenants. So, not all bad, not all debt is bad debt. So just, get creative and try to minimize or mitigate your expenses. If you want to look into transportation, carpool, or, I don't know, Uber someone to and from work, covers insurance, et cetera, but just mitigate your expenses where you can.
I would echo the, have fun your senior year, right? Because the cold reality of adulting is gonna hit you when you figure out that you're not gonna get, long breaks or spring breaks like you used to. You get vacation, but it's not the same. Another one would be, networking. Keep contact with the people that you work with on co-op jobs, right? Touch base from time to time. Keep contact. I know a lot of people that have gotten their first full-time job because they kept close contact with the people that they work with on co-op. In fact, the company that I work for, we one-to-one match. When we hire new college grads every summer that were our co-ops, and we one-to-one match. They don't even have to go to. We have our own internal job expos and things like that. I can just say I would like that person to work in my area, and they can say I'd like to go work in that area, and it's a one-to-one match. And that's almost always happens because people keep close contact. I would also say, for the folks that you work with on co-ops, share your plans with them. Tell them what you want to do. The leaders of the companies that you work for, those are the decisions they make, right? So tell them you want to work for the company. Tell them what department, what role, a certain location. Get it on their radar so that, when the time comes, and you can potentially get where you want to be with help from somebody in the company. And that's long-term in your careers as well. And I would say, are we saying on the co-op or just in the
general? In
general, just your last year. I would say, find a project, whether it's in school, a capstone project or whatever. Find something that you're passionate about. Find something to work on in one of your classes that kind of, if you can, leave your legacy, leave a mark, leave something for folks to remember, because it's the time is going to come fast. I mean, it's going to be graduation before you know it. So work on something you're passionate about.
So thank you for answering those questions. I'm going to open it up to the floor. What questions do you have for our 2 panelists?
What has defied your expectations most since leaving university?
What is defied by expectations?
Yeah.
You got to answer this?
Did you say, so what expectations, I missed the word before
Yeah,
expectations.
so like what expectations do you have going into the professional world that have been the most off base since entering the professional world?
I would say, one, I hit on earlier, leadership, right? I didn't necessarily see myself as a leader coming out of college, right? I thought leaders are people who supervise people. In most places, you will be expected to lead, right? You will be expected to influence, and you will be held accountable to the way that you influence others around you, right? The words you choose, you have to think about the impact they're going to have on others, and are you motivating them, or are you just setting them behind, right? The other one that probably was an expectation I didn't see coming was, I mentioned this earlier as well, is financial acumen, like understanding the value of a project, understanding the way that the financial piece of what I'm working on works, right? And how to evaluate that, and how to sell projects as well, right? You need that data. The business needs to know that something is going to be profitable before you spend time on it or for the invest money in it, right? I didn't really see that coming, right? And then the other expectation, I think that some people find surprising, and some people don't, but the expectation of spending time with, if you work in a manufacturing setting, spending time with technicians in the field and learning from them, right? I think it's very easy for all of us, we're all smart people in this room, right? But the technicians are just as smart. And they know more about your facility than, way more than you will or probably ever will. So, that I think is an important lesson to learn. Because you won't, I'm still today, 18 years in, I'm still learning from our technicians every day.
Yeah, I do have one thing to add. I guess coming out of college, college is pretty time consuming. I don't know how many credit hours you guys are taking right now, but you got to really be able to manage your time in college. And then I had an expectation, kind of unrealistic, but when I got out of college, I had more free time. 40, 45 hours, 50 hours of a job, and I was thinking, okay, well, I don't know how many hours I spent on class, but I think it's like 3 hours studying for every credit hour is what they say. So you spend a lot of your time learning, educating yourself for your professional development in the future. But when I graduated, I figured I would have a ton of time. And then when I started working, I realized that time was pretty valuable. So definitely manage your time well and have realistic expectations moving forward. That you're not going to get everything you want to do done. You just got to prioritize.
You mentioned time. When I think about COVID-19, 2019 and the shelter-in-place rules and how everything has shifted over the last 18 months, how has time changed in your role?
My role as an engineer?
Yeah, what's changed? So when you think about where you were and now, and when I mean pre-pandemic to now, when we think about time, expectations, industry, what's changed?
Oh yeah, from my business perspective, a lot of lead times. I mean, this supply chain is very disrupted in a lot of different industries, and everything supply demand, right? So supply chain is messed up. Demand's still there, prices go up, so everything's kind of getting more expensive. Things are taking longer to get. Lead times on IMP went from a couple weeks to a couple months. So it really adds on time for the projects. Because I work in the construction industry, design, developer. really adds to the significant amount of time on the project. Which makes everything kind of take longer. Got to be more well thought out.
I think the way that we interact with colleagues globally or our customers even, I think we've gotten a little bit better. One thing that's changed, like we're building a plant right now in my area, and I think pre-pandemic we would have included them in a voice call or sent them an email, right? And I think we all got the sense of how to better connect in the pandemic remotely, right? And so I think we have an engineering center in India, for example, and the way that we communicated with that, the engineering center that was designing our plant was much different after the pandemic or during the pandemic, because we started doing things that it sounds simple, but like making videos for them, sending them more pictures. We did like construction safety walkthroughs with a camera system that you got on your hard hat so that the people virtually could, essentially walk through. I think another thing that's changed is flexibility, right? People's ability to work in different environments. I personally could barely check email from home, pre-pandemic, right? And now I can work 4 work days, and I think a lot of people are like that. So I think the expectations on flexibility have changed. I think there's a real expectation, for company, that employees have for companies on flexibility. I mean, we were flexibility pre-pandemic, and we're super flexible now. Like I've got day-to-day engineers that work from home a day a week, right? That would have never been thought of, and they're productive, right? I think we were very close-minded to that pre-pandemic, and so I think it's good flexibility both for people who like me who have a 45-minute commute. If I can say, if I can work, I don't work from home on a regular basis, but it's a lot easier now. And if I can save an hour and a half of my day that I don't have to be in a car, that's great. And that's the situation for the engineer in our plant, right? He's saving himself an hour and a half a week in a car, and he fills that time being productive. So I think that's probably, and then to echo your point, right? Things take longer. Your expectations on how long something's going to take or how expensive it's going to be as well. Prices change. That expectation, it's harder to go back pre-pandemic and look at projects and estimates and costs and invoices and quotes and try to get it. You kind of have to hit the reset button and start over now. So, it's a big change.
Other questions?
How have your goals changed since you started?
My goals, how have they changed? I would say for me, my goals were a lot more clear when I first started in my career. Like, here's where a project is at point A, here's where we need to get it to point B, or here's where a piece of equipment's reliability is A and get to B. And they were a lot more defined, I would say. And as you get more experience and you become a little more senior, your goals get a little more strategic. So your goals early in your career are much more short-term, accomplish this and that. And as you get experience, your goals tend to turn, okay, in 5 years and 10 years. You start to think a lot more strategically, and they get a little bit longer term. The other piece is people leadership, right? Strategies around not only what people are in what roles, but people as individuals. And so my goals are much more around, employee development, around organizational design, things like that. So they tend to change. And if you go the technical route, right, if you stay on the technical side your whole career, you'll be planning, where the plant's going to be at in 5 years, right? Or how the plant's going to be running, or your construction site. You won't be looking at your current construction job. You'll be looking at future construction jobs, 5, 10 years out.
How about personally?
My personal goals? when you get out of college, it's hard to see retirement, right? And 42 seemed old, right? When I was 23, 42 is not old. But you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? I've spent more years working already than I have left, right? I'm 18 in, I got about 14 left. So you get over the hump and you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and your goals personally really change around, okay, what would I like to accomplish before I retire, right? Both inside and outside of work, right? If you have children, right? That certainly has been probably the biggest change, has been children. So then you start to have goals for your kids, and things change at work because you have a family, right? Because I've passed up opportunities for family, right? And so when I was 23, I wanted to be CEO, right? I wanted to go to the top, and that's changed. It's changed for me based on the priorities change.
Yes, for me professionally, too much has necessarily changed. I started my job a little over 6 months ago. But personally, I think one of the goals that I've had is now, I have maybe a financial independence as, my passive investments are working for me and supplementing my expenses, and I think for me it's become a priority. I'm just trying to accomplish that, so I don't necessarily need a working job if I don't want to, so it's kind of makes sense.
Other questions?
Okay. What benefits do you think you've had for working at the same company for 18 years?
Probably the people first, right? And both 18 years in, living several, since I've been full-time, I've lived in 4 different states, right? So, the networking, it allows, opportunities to come my way, but it also allows me to create opportunities for others, right? When you can pick up the phone and you personally know and have worked with somebody in Texas, and there's somebody that working in your area that would like to move to Texas, right? You can put them in touch. And so the networking for 18 years, work for one company for 18 years, you build pretty extensive networking that allows you to help others, allows you to get work done faster too, right? I think you kind of learn the way things are done, and it gives you 18 years of perspective to know why certain changes are there, right? And I think that's a benefit too. You can kind of look back at past mistakes or the reason why things have changed, and it allows your decision making to be much quicker because you've got the history, right? You remember when something changed and you remember why. That's, I think, the benefit for me.
In your experience, what are the differences in opportunity between getting a professional license or getting a graduate degree or just continuing on with a bachelor's degree?
You're in the process. Go ahead.
I guess I passed up on grad school so that I could get work experience and start, got work experience for my PE. Sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm curious about if you choose to get a professional license or get a graduate degree or get a bachelor's degree, what are the different opportunities for each path there?
Well, if you want to go to grad school, get a PhD or something, kind of deciding between two paths, and I don't know, my opinion, you're academia or you're doing research, and you know, if you end up doing that and you want to work at a design position or something, and you become overqualified, you're not going to get that return on investment. You know, cost you money out of pocket to get a graduate degree. You know, you got to think of that. So, you know, you're in a good major right now. You can have a good ROI. If you're getting for school or not, but professional engineer license. I mean, I would say if you're gonna work at the same company for 18 years, and you know, if you're in the same position, I know you switch around, but you know, if you're in the same position for 18 years, it makes sense to get licensed and certifications in particular disciplines you work with. But I mean, just I'd say that's a tough one.
So was licensure part of what your company required of you?
No, that's like my own personal
Okay.
goal. I do work with two other professional engineers, or I guess two professional engineers, and you gotta have 3 professional engineer references when you go and apply for PE licensing. So I guess that's a plus for me. But no, yeah, it's just all personal goal for me to push towards that.
I would say it really depends on what you want to do, and that's a hard decision to make, at your all stage, right? But for me, my goal was and still is, to come up in manufacturing, right? Spending a good deal most of my career in manufacturing. So a PE or a master's probably isn't quite as valuable as the time in the plant, the experience in the plant. But like if you're switching companies, for example, a PE is a good thing to have. Or if you want to do certain types of work, I mean, there are certain types of engineering work that you cannot do without a PE license, right? So, I know that quite a bit in the civil, but also, in the mechanical as well. Like, I mean, if you're going to build pressure vessels, for example, right? There's a lot of companies that require the engineers to build their pressure vessels to be PEs, right? Mechanical. Master's degree, it just depends on what you want to do. A master's degree sometimes allows you to get another discipline, right? So I don't know if a mechanical undergrad, a mechanical grad degree, I'm not well versed in what the value in that is, but I can say that if you get a mechanical engineering degree and then a master's in maybe like material science or something like that, that allows you to be a little more broad, I think, coming out of college. I know that on the chemical engineering side, I think I do work with somebody who is chemical engineering undergrad and then work with polymers in grad school, right? And they're a valuable asset in my business because we have polymers, right? And so, and they were recruited specifically because they went to grad school for polymer chemistry.
Vlad, did you have a question?
So you mentioned the supply chain is pretty broken to the whole competition, and I bet you have also the shortage of people in the operation side. How do you manage stress? Because I bet it's really also time to work on operations and any supply chain. So how do you keep the work-life balance?
How do I keep my work-life balance? The stressors associated with the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is just organization. Like staying organized. Every day I work in the office. I have an option to work from home as well, but every day I leave, I make sure I get all my tasks. I make the daily checklist for what I got to do. Do that. Keep my information organized. Relay information to colleagues is super important. If you know somebody needs to, know something about whatever project you're working on, make sure to tell them. Don't let that simply back, because then it'll come up 2 months later and go like, well, I thought I gave that to you, and you don't have any, records. So just like organize, make sure you're prioritizing tasks that need to get done. You kind of develop that, as I mentioned earlier, a more refined decision-making skill, and just like a work-life balance. Gosh, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of going through with you guys, so I'm looking at everything, and supply chain is, directly related to the pandemic, so.
For me, it's been 100% people. So, it's having as many conversations with as many people, and letting them know that I am concerned with their stress level, and my leadership does the same. But yeah, for me, it's just been connecting with people and understanding their situation and being flexible, right? And also a day off goes a long way, right? And that goes both ways. Like, we can tell our folks, just take a paid day off. Just take a day off and relax. Don't turn on the email. Don't work from home. Just take a day, relax. And I think being able to do that for yourself, right? Take a mental health day for yourself, because you're a better, in my role, I'm a better leader. I can't be stressed. If I get stressed, everybody else starts getting. So I've got to think about me first. My people first, but that's a lot of times that's by taking care of me.
Kind of going back to the PE versus FE versus master's degree conversation we were having a few minutes ago. Have you guys in your careers found any negative effects of having a PE? I know specifically in the automotive industry, that's kind of the topic of conversation. Have you experienced that?
Negative?
Negative, yes. No.
I don't know.
I think you're an MEP design, so that makes sense that you could use it.
Yeah, well, I'm not a PE yet, but I don't know. I work with PE. So the owner of the company is my boss. It's a flat company, and there's another PE who works at the company. He's only signed and sealed one document in his entire life. So I guess that's a drawback. He got his PE license. He keeps it renewed on the chance that he has to sign a sealed document. But he doesn't use it, so I guess that's a drawback. It's kind of unnecessary. But I mean, if you know that's kind of what you want to go after, then there's really no reason why you wouldn't want to do that. It's a couple $100 to take each exam. It's not very expensive. It's a good investment in yourself.
Were there any factors in search for full-time work that maybe didn't matter as much to you down the line in this current position? Whether that's a location, pay, industry?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Were there any factors in search for full-time, like location or pay, that you realized that maybe didn't matter or matters in your position?
So you're doing your job search, you had like these things in mind, and as you're going through the search, it didn't really matter, or it changed.
What I see pretty commonly is a couple of years, 2-3 years seems like a long time when you're getting out of college. It's not. It's going to go by in a heartbeat. So I think a lot of times a factor like geography, if you work for a bigger company where you have the ability to move around and you don't find the perfect job right out of college, but you have the ability to switch jobs down the road, I'd say those factors become less important, because the first 2 years of your career will fly by, they'll be gone, right? It'll be time for you to kind of switch to the next job or get a promotion quickly. So, usually geography was important for me. I wasn't as concerned about what job I wanted, because I had already in co-op switched jobs 6 times, right? So, I knew that in the future I would have the ability to switch jobs. But I think, keeping in mind what is available to you next, right? So you always kind of want to be thinking about the next job, right? What can you do to set yourself up? Or what flexibility do you have to get where you want to be? And how important that is that when you're selecting finding your first job out of college?
kind of went out the window for me when I was applying to jobs. It was like, at one point, I was literally like, all right, I'll accept any position that I get. I don't care what the pay is. I don't care what the PTO is, the benefits. Like, I was just like, I need a job. You know, and that's the only thing that I can do.
One more question, burning question? Yeah.
Kind of building on what you just said about how you're taking the offer, you said you had multiple offers. Why did you settle on a smaller company or decide to go with this company?
Yeah, the reason I decided to go with this company, well, kind of contradicting what I just said, best pay, best benefits, etc. Like, I mean, yeah, my company, yeah, I'd be off work in 10 minutes, you know, like it's like a, 6:30, 7 o'clock to 3:30, varies by day, but like everyone's out of the office by 3:30 on a daily basis. So, super nice, in terms of work-life balance. Because I'm a morning person, I like to get up, get into work, and then I have the entire evening to kind of do, things, in my life I want to do.
More of a question for you. Do you have any advice for your first contract negotiation for salary?
I mean, kind of have like a number in mind that you're willing to accept, and if you get lowballed, come back with a counter offer. Don't be afraid to counter. Because if they want you, they want you. That's why they're offering you contracts. So definitely counter. Take what you think you deserve. If you want to settle for less, go ahead, but understand that it kind of impedes you in the long run because if you get 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever % raise each year, then you're only getting that percentage of your initial salary unless you job hop every 6 months or a year, 2 years or whatnot, and you get a bigger.
You've offered to full-time folks, right? So what has been, and I'll flip it, what's the craziest number they've actually asked for?
So I recruit at Cincinnati, and in my current position, I hire new engineers out of college.
I'm not trying to out.
One's vacation, right? So
Okay.
I had somebody literally ask for the same amount of vacation in my company that you get at like your 25-year service. They literally asked for like 240 hours of vacation. Which, don't ask for 240 hours of vacation, you ask for a long one.
Like 6 weeks.
It was something. So they asked for 240 hours of vacation, and I had somebody. We compete with Marathon here, right? And at UC. So oil money is better than chemical industry money typically. A lot of people ask for what Marathon offered them. You're not going to get what Marathon offered. I had somebody ask for $175,000. I think they were shooting high. I think they're like, what I really want is 100.
Yeah.
So
Meet me in the middle.
Start at 175. I did not counter offer. I said try it. Let's revise that number once before I even come back with something.
And so we'll talk about salary negotiation in the coming weeks, and then what your compensation package will look like. I did mention that there's going to be a video lecture on financial planning, so that's going to be coming up. I think one of the things to think about, taking from Brad and Stephen, and again, give them a round of applause. Something to consider, and is not only the compensation package that you're going to have coming out of college, but more so what expectations do you have. I think they've offered differing perspectives and good perspectives on what you need to think about as you're planning the last few months, right? The other part to it too also is, and I'm struck by Brad's comments, you're going to evolve, okay? And so how do you want to evolve? Not only as an engineer, but towards the middle of your career, end of your career as a leader, okay? And even before that, a manager. And we'll talk about the difference between leadership and management later on. But I think as you think about your trajectory, gone are the days of the 10-year plan. You'd be lucky if you have the 5-year plan. I just want you to have a 3-year plan, if not one, right? And so think about those expectations as we go through the remainder of the class. I think it's a great opportunity to have these folks come in at this juncture, because some of the stuff that they've mentioned, we're going to touch upon it later on in the class, specifically like licensure and certification, financial planning, and also salary negotiation in particular. But the other piece to it too also is as you plan your next 12 months, okay? And I mean that in the idea of your coursework, and we'll talk about that later on as well. So once again, thank you to Brad, thank you to Stephen for being with us today. If you have follow-up questions, let me know, and I could forward, if that's okay with you, forward follow-up questions from the class. But other than that, again, thank you so much.
I got one last thing. Book recommendation, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Best book ever.